We do have some good news that we wanted to get to you today. Steven Donziger, who has been now for years under house arrest for the crime of standing up for the indigenous people of Ecuador against the giant oil company of Chevron. He has finally, at long last, been released. Let's put this tweet up on the screen. This happened yesterday. It makes me so happy to see him out there on the street. Lovely picture of him there. Holding up his release papers. He says, breaking, it is over. Just left with release papers in hand. Completely unjust that I spent even one day in this Kafkaesque situation, but not looking back, onward. And I think he sums it up perfectly well right there. Just so everybody, you know, if you guys haven't been following this case really closely, it really does matter and expose the way that Chevron was able to use their money and influence in the judiciary to effectively, really criminalize this man and villainize him for just actually winning a court case against them for their poisoning of indigenous Ecuadorian lands. So Donziger is starting a Substack, and he wrote a little bit about his experience. And I just want to read this so people have kind of the general gist of what happened here. He says that Chevron and this judge that was kind of allied with them coordinated to charge me with criminal contempt of court and lock me up for almost 3 years at home and in prison. He was actually sent to a federal prison for a time after an unprecedented criminal prosecution by a private Chevron law firm. Chevron and that judge claimed I committed a crime by appealing a civil discovery order that I turned over my computer and cell phone to Chevron. These devices contained reams of confidential attorney-client protected communication that I was ethically obligated to protect. Such an order, violating the attorney-client privilege in a civil discovery context, was unprecedented. Lawyers in rule of law countries do not share their confidential case files with opposing counsel. He goes on to say, it was subterfuge designed by Chevron and the judge to force me to choose between complying with my ethical duties to my clients or complying with a court order under threat of contempt. I am, and I think this is really important to remember, the first lawyer in U.S. history ever charged with a crime for appealing a civil discovery order. The case seemed orchestrated to retaliate against me for helping win the pollution judgment against Chevron in Ecuador. The federal prosecutor in New York refused to accept Kaplan's charges. So that's sort of the meat of what happened to him ultimately. It is wonderful to see him free. It is insane that he ever spent a single day under house arrest or in prison. And I want to say that, you know, I hope you all support him or consider supporting him as he moves into his new chapter. He wants to get back to his roots of journalism, actually, which is something that I think, you know, he certainly has the courage and the perseverance and the dogged determination and the completely unbought and unbossed mentality to be very effective at. He started a Substack, so we'll put the link in the description. And in addition, we announced yesterday we have a new partnership with Status Quo and Jordan Chariton, who's going to be providing us with exclusive footage. Yesterday, we showed you some of his exclusive footage, interviews with workers at Amazon. Today, we have some footage for you from Jordan Chariton on the ground at a block party to celebrate Steven Donziger's release. Let's take a look at that.
Steven Donziger, a free man. That's my first question. I mean, basic, how do you feel?
I feel exhilarated. I mean, I just can't believe it's over, at least this phase. You know, it's a mixture of excitement, frankly, exhaustion. I've been up like in the middle of the night for several nights running, mostly because the prison system just kept calling me, you know, and making me do these check-ins from home that are just insane. So I'm glad I don't have to deal with those phone calls anymore. I'm glad to try to get my life back. You know, freedom is something I think I took for granted, frankly, before this happened. Like, you don't realize you just sort of built into your life until it's taken away. So happy to at least have most of my freedom back. I'm not completely out of the woods with these legal assaults they're targeting me with, but I'm really, really happy today. And I really couldn't have done it without all this support.
I think that's important because you're free, but you've been disbarred, nearly bankrupted, your reputation tarnished. So it's not like it's, you know, rainbows and sunshine.
Exactly. Look, one thing I'll say is I think Chevron's strategy to use this to crush me failed. I think I'm stronger than ever. I mean, the support we have has grown exponentially in the last year or two because they overreached and locked up a human rights lawyer in the United States of America. So, you know, while I do face certain challenges, I also have all sorts of other possibilities that come out of it. And I think overall, their strategy failed. I mean, I'm as strong as ever. I'm stronger, actually, and I'm energized by the whole experience, and I'm going to keep fighting for the people of Ecuador, fighting for human rights generally, and I really am excited about the future.
And lastly, I've been covering a lot of doom and gloom lately the last couple of years, but covering the Amazon victory, obviously you had to face 993 days of unjust detention, but I feel like there's a different energy right now, just in different movements and organizing. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that all liberation struggles are connected. And what Chris Smalls is doing, winning the union vote in Amazon, which, by the way, is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there's going to be 100 of these votes over the next 2-3 years, in my opinion. So he's reshaping the American labor movement. I think through the Ecuador case, I'd like to think we're reshaping the paradigm of how you can achieve environmental justice against the major polluters of the world. So when we met, we had a lot in common, just talking about our different struggles. They're very connected. It's all connected, isn't it? So yeah, I do think there's new energy in the air. I think people really feel the possibility. I think the United States has so many problems and they've become so deep, inequality of income, lack of opportunity, lack of a healthcare plan, and people realize it doesn't have to be this way. These are the result of policy choices made by politicians who are mostly bought by the corporate world, so we can change that, and it's up to us to change that. And I think the energy in the air here tonight is an example of that.
Go get really drunk on good champagne.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming.
Great interview, and just great to hear from him and see him so incredibly happy after being locked in his house for so many years. He has a young teenage son. I mean, it really was horrific what they did to him. But one of the best things, Saagar, that I saw yesterday at that block party is Chris Smalls was there and spoke as well. Yeah. And here's two men who, corporate America tried to demonize, tried to destroy ultimately, and it only made them more courageous and greater sort of moral leaders. So to see the two of them together and clearly sharing that bond was also really extraordinary and very inspiring.
No, yeah, and I mean, what happened to him is objectively crazy, especially whenever I would talk to him, I can't believe you're the first person in U.S. history, for a lawyer, in order to be held in contempt of court and the whole private prosecution. I mean, the details of this are literally insane. Yes. I know it may seem a little bit distant, but we have this tweet. Let's put this up there. Steven's starting a Substack now. We'll put a link down there in the description that all of you guys can go and subscribe to if you're interested. Because as he said, now he's free and now he's got to fight for redemption. So it's still a long road.
He's got to make a living now. So I mean, they came after his his law license and disbarred him, and the legal costs were extraordinarily onerous. So and regardless, even putting all of that aside, he has a very important and very courageous voice. So I'm pleased to support him, and I hope you'll consider doing the same.
Absolutely.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing, and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.